You don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it, but maybe it's happening. Maybe we are witnessing the end of Taylor Decker's time with the Detroit Lions. Maybe it's a swan song of sorts. Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Mike Payton with A to Z Sports Detroit, and today we're going to talk about how we could be maybe witnessing the end of Taylor Decker's time with the Lions. Or maybe we're overreacting a little bit. I don't know. Let's talk about it. So the reason that people feel this way is because the last two games for Decker have been pretty bad. He gave up 6 pressures and a sack against the Vikings and another 2 pressures and a sack against the Titans. Maybe should have been 2 sacks. One of those sacks from Arden Key got credited to somebody else. But, I kind of feel like it was Decker's assignment and he missed that one. But I digress. Right now, he's had 5 sacks in 7 games. His career high is 6. That was over the course of an entire season in 2019. It kind of feels like, given that there's a lot more football left to play, and if he's playing at this rate, he might break that record and give up an all-time career amount of sacks in a season. That's definitely something you do not want to see. And, it makes you wonder what happened. What happened to Taylor Decker, the standard bearer of this offensive line, one of the captains, one of the guys that's like, you don't worry about Taylor Decker. You know what I mean? You haven't had to worry about him for a while now. He's just been a good player. He's not a Pro Bowler. He's not an All-Pro or anything like that, but he's just a good player that gets things done. He's one of the big parts of this team, part of the old guard, as Dan Campbell would call it. But now you wonder, are we seeing the end? And I'm going to make the argument that we're not. He's given up the 5 sacks, 7 games. You can't take that back. That is bad. It's not what you want to see from Decker. But other than that, he's actually playing kind of well. I mean, he's given up 15 pressures this season, but 8 of those were the last 2 games. And, we're talking about 2 pretty good defensive lines. The Titans may be a 1-6 football team, but that defensive line is Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry, Arden Key. That is a tough group. And it shouldn't shock anybody that they were able to get pressure. They've been doing it all season. So, and then obviously we know Minnesota is maybe the best defense in football right now. So it makes sense that any offensive lineman is going to have some trouble against these 2 really good defensive lines. When you take away the 8 pressures from the previous 2 weeks, we're talking about 7 pressures in, the previous 5 games. That's not bad. 7 pressures and 3 sacks. It's not the greatest offensive line performance of all time, but that's not horrible. I think that even with that 15 pressures that he's allowed, that's not even top 20 in the NFL in terms of pressures allowed by a tackle. So I really think that there's a lot of overreaction going on with how he's played. And I think, obviously I'm not saying that Taylor Decker is playing all pro level football or Pro Bowl level football. That's not happening. We both, we all know that's not happening. But at the same time, I think that you're seeing, the Taylor Decker that you've, for the most part, been pretty used to, a solid player, not, too loud, not too, he's getting it done, is what I'm saying. He's not going to be a super flashy guy. He's not the guy that you think is going to be like Penei Sewell, who's going to only allow 1 sack in, every quarter century. But he is a good offensive tackle, solid left tackle for the Lions. And that's why he's under contract until 2027. Now, realistically, the Lions could potentially have him play out 2025. And then maybe, if his play continues to dip a little bit more, they can make another decision as to what they want to do. Ideally, you would think that you'd move Penei Sewell over to left tackle, and then Giovanni Manu would potentially be ready to play right tackle, sooner than later. But that just seems like a project that is a long-term one. And we don't know if it's going to bear fruit just yet. So we'll see what happens. Maybe the Lions attack tackle in the draft this coming year at a higher pick. Maybe it's not something that they decide they want to do a project on. But either way, the Lions still have the best offensive line in football. There's no way around that. They have the best center, best right tackle, 2 really good guards, and a solid left tackle. And while Decker did not play the best 2 games stretch that he's had in his career, I still think that he's going to be just fine down the stretch of this season and into the playoffs, maybe even in the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens. But I think maybe we're overreacting. We're thinking a little bit too far ahead with how we're thinking about Taylor Decker right now.